This is the country, if plunder today, exploitation of other people is removed, the USA will not be the powerful country that it is today. If there's equality in the dealings with each other, the USA ceases because it doesn't know how to deal with other people on an equal basis, with other nations on an equal basis. It gets lost. It's worried today with the multipolar world that is emerging because its hegemonic interests are being threatened. It's not China per se, it's the interests of the Americans that are being threatened with a world that is more equal, that is more fair, that is more just. They can't survive in that world because their methods of existence are based on plundering other nations, on humiliating other nations, on exploiting other nations.
So let's watch this next video, okay? And then we shall share our thoughts and opinions. So let's watch.
They often refer to China as the biggest, or top challenge or biggest threat to the U.S. existence. How do you understand that kind of allegation or criticism?
You can understand why they are worried about like a country like China, because China is working in the opposite direction to them. China is working to free other people and free itself from being plundered, from being humiliated. This is the country that has, the USA is a country that has thrived, survived, prospered from slave trade, cross-Atlantic slave trade. They enslaved the Africans for centuries. They plundered the resources of Latin America, the resources of Africa, the resources of Asia. They plundered even the resources of Europe.
Don't you find this funny that a Zambian political figure will go to China, will visit China, and instead of this reporter or interviewer asking him about Zambia and China, he was more concerned with how America viewed China. I'm so confused. It's like you and I are in a room, and instead of discussing what concerns the both of us and how we can build our relationship and how we can make our relationship a more productive one, we are focusing on how other people are viewing you. Can you see the craziness in it? You are not concerned about my relationship with you, but you are worried about how others view you. And then you are asking me, what do I think about how others view you? Like, that is supposed to concern you and I, right? I don't get it. So the obsession of China about the West is sometimes out of place. I understand that America is trying its best to clamp down on China's growth and development. But I think that when people meet in setting like this, they should talk about what concerns the both of them and how they can build a very productive relationship, not discussing about things that are unrelated to both of them. That's what I think, but let's continue.
This is the country, if plunder today, exploitation of other people is removed, the USA will not be the powerful country that it is today. If there's equality in the dealings with each other, the USA ceases because it doesn't know how to deal with other people on an equal basis, with other nations on an equal basis. It gets lost. It's worried today with the multipolar world that is emerging because its hegemonic interests are being threatened. It's not China per se, it's the interests of the Americans that are being threatened with a world that is more equal, that is more fair, that is more just. They can't survive in that world because their methods of existence are based on plundering other nations, on humiliating other nations, on exploiting other nations.
Well, a related question, I would cite is, the Chinese efforts to broker, basically a peace deal for Saudi Arabia and Iran to resume their diplomatic ties. And then you see the Chinese efforts to create some conditions for peace or for ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine in this Ukraine crisis. But then if you look at the reaction or response from the US side, they try to dismiss the Chinese efforts or belittle the Chinese efforts as something else. Why is that kind of response? The Chinese efforts basically have been welcomed by the rest of the world. People see that as very positive. More peace, more stability in the Middle East, more reconciliation. What's wrong with that?
A world that is peaceful is not suitable for the United States because it prospers from conflict. It sets one humble nation against the other.
I do not know how many times I'm going to keep saying this, but as long as my fellow African brothers and sisters do not or haven't understood the whole thing, I'm going to keep saying it because I think that as an African, whom I am, it's my responsibility to push back on certain things that might be misleading. And also to try to educate people on certain things that I feel that they might not have enough information about. So coming on the point he made about slavery, about America plundering the wealth of other nations, that is true. America and Britain, they benefited a lot from the transatlantic slave trade. In fact, it was like the biggest in the world. And I think I have talked about that like a lot on this platform. And about equal footing, that is the same thing. America does not deal with other nations as equal. They look at themselves as being superior than other nations. That is true. But for someone to think that China deals with Africa on an equal footing, that person must be also very, very naive. I understand that he is a politician and he is playing into the narrative of China for one reason or another. Because like I have said many times, politicians are a bunch of liars and they are the people that I have the least trust in. So I don't believe in them. I don't think they can even solve my problems. I just feel like they are just there to do their own thing. Politics is a game of self-interest, but that aside. So coming back to China and its relationship with Africa, I personally think that China-Africa relationship is not a win-win. It's not equal. Never, never. There is never such a thing as equal. China is the one footing the bills. And remember, whoever that foot the bills call the tune. Whoever that has the pipe blows the tune. Whoever that has the money dictate the terms and conditions. So you cannot be saying that China is dealing with Africa on an equal footing when China is telling Africa what to do. Now, they might not be as upfront as the Europeans are. But believe me, the Chinese know what we call soft power diplomacy. I have said it many times, and that is what they are using. They come in and they pretend like they have no behind motive and that we are friends. And then behind the scene, they start making you do certain things for them. That's what they do. Chinese will give loans to Africa with conditions that they will do the project, or they won't give you the loan, but they will come in and build the infrastructure. Now, good and fine, we need the hospital, we need the roads. But do you know that when they come in to build the infrastructure, they will come in with Chinese employees to carry out those projects? Bear in mind that we have many people in Africa who do not have jobs. But the Chinese will be brought in to do the job. And the materials needed for this project will be imported from China. And after all is said and done, we will have to pay back this loan to China. So it's so funny to see someone, a political figure like this guy here, saying that China plays with Africa on an equal footing and that China deals with Africa as equal. Well, I do not think so. I do not think so for a second. They do not believe that. We Africans might believe that, but the Chinese do not believe that. Maybe when he goes to China as a high-profile person, they will pull out the red carpet. They will give him the VIP treatment. But maybe he should talk to fellow Zambians who are ordinary people like myself living in China and see how or the kind of perception the Chinese have about us, the Africans. He should ask them. He should ask them. So, I just want to make it very clear. China in Africa is not necessarily a bad thing because there are things we need that the Chinese can provide. So I think it's not a bad thing. China doing business in Africa is not a bad thing. But for all the Africans thinking that China is our friend, that China has come to Africa to do friendship with us, we are mistaken. China is in Africa for business and business alone, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But we Africans should not be confused. We should not confuse one thing with the other. We should all understand this. But you guys out there, what is your take on this whole interview? Do you think that this politician from Zambia speaks the truth? Should we all just let our guard down, thinking that China won't take advantage of us? Let us know in the comment section below because like always, we love hearing what you have to say. And also, please don't forget to like this video, share this video, follow our Facebook page, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel because little bit of goodwill, like the one you're doing just now, help us a lot and we shall ever be grateful to you. So thank you very much for doing just that. And like always, see you in the next one.